ever felt the fear of stepping out of your comfort zone? If yes, you're in for a special treat today. Our guest today is Lynda Sunshine West, the unstoppable founder and CEO of Action Takers Publishing. And she's going to share some insights from her latest book, Bold Risks, Big Rewards. And we'll talk about her other books a little bit as well. But Bold Risks, Big Rewards is a powerful collection of stories about embracing courage and achieving extraordinary success. Stay with us. Don't go away. We'll be right back with the Writer's Corner live show.
Imagine a world where the lines of reality blur with the fantastical. Embark on journeys from humble beginnings to the pinnacles of literary greatness. On the Writer's Corner, we delve into the lives of unique wordsmiths, known for their compelling storytelling. They are artisans who craft fantastical realms, etched in our memory long after the final page is turned. Every tale begins with a single word, a single idea. Authors create sensations that keep you on the edge of your seat. Witness how they transform setbacks into stepping stones. Use refusals to spark growth and turn rejections into catalysts for new inspiration. Witness the diversity in writing as it gives birth to a vast array of genres, from drama to mystery to children's stories, fantasy, and reality. Join us as we uncover sources of inspiration and the magic that defines the author's craft. Find out how authors breathe life into their characters and meticulously craft narratives and plots that captivate readers. Get a sneak peek into upcoming works and join us as we celebrate literary greatness only on the Writer's Corner. We don't just celebrate best-selling Amazon and New York Times authors, but also indie authors. Join us on the journey from the birth of a tale to the creation of a masterpiece, only on the Writer's Corner live show. Stay tuned.
If you have just joined us, then welcome to the Writer's Corner live show. And if you are not yet following us on all our social media channels, please go ahead and do that and subscribe on our YouTube channel. If you haven't met me yet, I'm Lynda from Cape Town in South Africa. And in today's show, Mary and I are going to be talking to Lynda Sunshine West. Our live stream is brought to you proudly by Creative Edge, StreamYard, and Be Live Media. But before we invite the amazing Lynda Sunshine West to come and join us on screen, I want to first say hello to my friend and co-host, Mary Elizabeth Jackson. And if you haven't met Mary yet, we've been live streaming together for the last 6 years on the Writer's Corner live show. And she's a 5-time #1 Amazon best-selling author and certified special needs and disabilities advocate. And she's dedicated her entire life to empowering underrepresented voices through her writing and her advocacy. Mary, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing? And you've got all your red going, and we're very excited to be here. We are 6 years. We are planning to do a show that we have everybody that we can get on, right? There's so many. How many did you count? How many authors have we interviewed over 6 years?
You know, it's about 300 authors. That's a lot of authors over the last 6 years.
Yeah, a lot of journeys. And we have one of our favorites on today. We've known her for years, and our paths have all come together. We've been in several of her books together. We get to talk about another great anthology that I'm super excited about. I know you are as well. And it's fun to be able to be on this journey together.
I know. I'm quite excited that we have Lynda on the show today because she's been a huge part of our journey. Mm-hmm. But, I'm going to let her tell you more about that if you're watching the show, and thank you for joining us on all the social media channels where we are live. But if you have not yet met Lynda Sunshine West, she is the unstoppable force behind Action Takers Publishing, and as the founder and CEO, her mission is to empower a whopping 5 million men and women to share their stories with the world. And I can tell you she's totally on track. She's affectionately known as the Queen of Collaboration. Now, Lynda is a book publisher, a speaker, a multiple times international #1 best-selling author. She's a contributing writer for Entrepreneur Magazine as well as Brains Magazine. She's an executive film producer and a red carpet interviewer. Now, Lynda isn't simply in the book business. She is in the dream realization business, transforming one life after the other through the power of collaboration and storytelling. Let's get her to join us, shall we?
Yes. Hi.
I always feel famous when that introduction comes up. So here I am.
Well, you are.
Welcome.
Everybody else doesn't know it yet, but you already are famous. So they're going to know. They all have to just jump on the bus because we're already big fans. So they need to join us. But we just love you, Lynda, so much. And something I learned about Lynda today was that she put on concert. Well, do you want to call them concerts or fundraisers? Like you did bunches of them, right?
Yeah, we did over 100 fundraisers, and I actually started doing it because I wanted. It was a selfish reason, because I had learned how to play bass guitar and I wanted to play in front of people, and so that was how it all started. But it was just that first step, and then that came the next and the next and the next. So over 100, we raised a couple $100,000 for charity.
That's amazing. And I love the story that you played for 2 weeks and decided you were good enough to perform in front of people. And that really defines you, though. I mean, seriously, right? You're like, I like this. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I picked up the bass guitar. I asked my husband who was playing in a band, and he played with them for 15 years or so. And every time he'd come home from band practice, I'd say, how was practice? And he would say, it was okay. I really don't like the music, but I'm doing it because I like the guys, And so finally, after 15 years of hearing that every single week, I just said, why don't you quit that band? Let's start our own band and we'll play your music, because he's written over 100 songs. And I said, we'll just play your music. And so I said, just teach me how to play bass guitar. Picked up the bass guitar. Within 2 weeks, I was like, we're good. We need gigs. It was kind of like that ignorant confidence, that I had. Because I was having so much fun that I just wanted to play out. And so I took that action step to do it. I knew that we couldn't get gigs somewhere because we didn't have, and we'd only been playing for 2 weeks, who would bring us in. And so I just decided I'm going to create my own gigs. And that's how it all started. And it was so much fun. I loved that era of my life, because I'm not doing that anymore. But doing the books with the same fervor, right? It's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to jump in and do what I'm doing to do what I can to make a greater impact on this planet.
Well done.
And that kind of answers question one, sort of, doesn't it, Bridgetti? Because what is the defining moment that pushed you out of your comfort zone to take a bold risk? And that's one of them, I'm sure. Of many.
Well, it's interesting that you asked that, because I know today we're going to be talking about a little bit about this book, Bold Risk, Big Rewards, and we've got it all right here. All three of us are in this book, and It's interesting because when you mentioned that, Mary, I hadn't even thought about that. In my life, I spent a lot of my years not knowing who I was, what value I had to offer. I thought I was stupid and ignorant because that's what my ex-husband told me. And he drilled it into me so strong that I believed it. And so as I was living my life and doing these different things, I never saw what I was doing as being something that was good or big or impactful. I didn't really see it that way. I just saw, this is what I want to do, so I'm going to go do it. And so it wasn't really until age 51 when I hired a life coach, and that life coach helped me to start to see who I am. And that was kind of like that catalyst that helped me to see that I need to keep showing up as who I am. Because in the past, I was so scared, just scared to be upfront and honest and vulnerable. Like I had all those fears. And then after working with my life coach, I ended up deciding to break through one fear every single day for a year. And that was back in 2015. And I got to tell you, my entire life has changed. So that was really, for me, that was the knowing pivot that I made. So when you mentioned like earlier, like that, what I did with the charity work, that was 15 years ago, before I broke through a fear every day, I didn't know what I was doing. So the difference today is that I actually have knowledge of the impact that I'm making. I have knowledge on how to make that impact. And it makes it so that my focus is really hyper intensive and very, very fantastical. That's a word I never heard before until you guys played that video. And so I was like, is that a real word? It is. But I'm going to use it in a sentence today. So anyway, it's through the awareness of who I am that makes it so it's easier for me to step up and to really step into that person and just be aware of it.
Lynda, I've got the perfect question for you because, you mentioned you wrote this book about overcoming a daily fear. What do you believe is the most significant barrier to people sharing their stories, but how can they overcome it?
Yeah, this is a big one. As I was, I'll just share just briefly. The reason I broke through a fear every day for a year is because one day I woke up and I realized that fear was controlling my life. And I was allowing my fear to make my decisions for me. And so I was like, I have so many fears. I gotta get rid of these. I'm going to break through a fear every day for a year. And that was kind of like that decision that I made. And then I did that. Every day I woke up and the first thing I did before I got out of bed is ask myself a simple question. What scares me? Then I'd lay in bed and I would wait till the first fear popped into my head. And whatever the first fear was, my commitment to myself was to break through that fear that day. So I did that 365 days in a row. And as you can imagine, doing something like that, there's probably some lessons that I learned along the way. There were many lessons, but I started to look at like, what is the underlying theme of my fears? There's got to be something. There's got to be something. And my realization was that it was the fear of judgment. The fear of judgment was what was controlling me. And so when we talk about like sharing our story, getting our message out there, speaking on stage, playing bass guitar, getting up in front of an audience, all these different things, is that a lot of times what stops us is that fear of judgment. What will they think of me? And it goes from the simple fear, like the fear of success, the fear of failure. These two fears are really the fear of judgment. It's really one fear. So if we can help ourselves to recognize that these different fears that we're having are really the fear of judgment, and we can rid ourselves of that fear, still be like listening to what people have to say, but rid ourselves of like the fear of what they might say. And so when we do that, that's when we can fully step into who we are without worries or fears of what they might think of us. There's a saying that more people are scared of speaking on stage than they are of dying. And that's not true. The truth is more people are scared of the judgment that they might receive on stage than they are of dying. It's that judgment. So if we can rid ourselves of that, we're golden.
I think you're spot on. You're absolutely spot on.
True, absolutely true. But now in constructive feedback from someone is something we should welcome because it's usually there, right? Usually to help us be better, even better, on that step. But I would agree with you too. And yes, we're learning.
I'd like to share something on that because during that year, one of my things was to be open to criticism. And so I said, from this point forward, I'm open to criticism. I say these same statements all the time, stuff like this. I don't know where they come from and why I do this to myself, but I do. Okay, so later on that day, I didn't know that I was going to have criticism come my way. I didn't know. And so this woman came up to me and she said something to me. And in the past, it would have just eaten me alive. It would have hurt my feelings. I probably would have like run off crying, all these different emotions that would have come up because she was criticizing me to my face. But that moment, because I had been accepting to all criticism, I said, thank you. And that's all I said was thank you. Because now I can take everything she said. And if I'm not listening with a fear around it or taking it personally, because a lot of times we take these criticisms, we take them personally. And if I don't take it that way, it doesn't matter how she's saying it. It doesn't matter how she intended it. What matters is how I interpret it and what I'm going to do with that. And so what I said, thank you, I took the information she said and I said, you know what? This one thing she said is something I can learn from. But if I had been closed off because like, here she's judging me, if I had been like all crazy minded about it, I wouldn't have heard that one nugget that she said that was so brilliant. And I really do thank her for having the courage to say something to me. I didn't like what she said, but I listened. And here's the thing, like people, I hear people say things like, I don't care what other people say. And for me, I do care what other people say because I'm a huge advocate for you speaking your voice. And if I'm an advocate for that, I need to care what other people say. But I don't have to allow it to impact my life. I don't have to allow it to, dig at me and stab me. Like, I don't have to do that. That's up to me. So you can say anything you want to me, and I'm in charge of what it does to and or for me. That's up to me.
And that's very, very powerful because you don't allow what someone else does to define who you are.
Right.
So that's a very, very big lesson. And we need to be teaching our children these things, especially through middle school and high school. I think it's very valuable lesson to be able to teach them. Very hard to execute, but very important for them to hear that, Well, we love this book. Absolutely. Being a part of it, Bold Risk, Big Rewards. And it includes various inspiring stories. And which story impacted you the most? Or do you have one, or were there several? And that might be kind of hard to pick, I would imagine. But I do know that what I love about your books, and Bridgetti may feel the same way. I don't know. I don't want to talk for her, but she might feel the same way. Each book that we've been in has allowed us to tell another part of our journey or story. And it's sort of been really freeing because some of those things, some of us have never spoken about publicly, right?
Yeah. And, picking my favorite would be like picking your favorite child, Mary. You can't do that.
I know, right? I know, that's what I was thinking.
So what I will share is my chapter is called Leap into Legacy. And this was an interesting thing for me because I never looked at my life as leaving a legacy behind. I never really saw the importance of that, or like, why should we even care about what happens when we're dead? That's kind of like how I lived my life. But then as I started doing more and, publishing more and more books, and I came up with this mission to empower 5 million women and men to share their stories with the world to make a greater impact. That was when I had that epiphany that I'm building a legacy. My company is not like a fly by night, flash in the pan type of thing. It is really about leaving a legacy behind of empowering all those people to share their stories. I mean, that is something that I most likely, 5 million is a lot. I most likely won't hit that number while I'm still breathing. And that's when I had that realization that I am building legacy right now. And so I'll just say my chapter is my favorite because that way I don't have to choose one.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Oh my goodness. So it's interesting that, you've chosen the path of collaboration books. How do you help people cultivate the culture of collaboration? And what are some of the benefits that you've seen using this methodology?
Yeah, definitely the collaboration is a big thing for me. When I hired a life coach back in 2014, and when I worked with her, one of the things she helped me to realize is like who I am, my essence, like my core essence as a human being. And one of those things was a community builder. It's just who I am. When I started playing bass guitar, I'm going to bring together all these bands and we're going to raise money, so it's always been about building community for me. So now that I had that as my focus, now I know that this is something that I do. It's natural for me. Now I was able to start focusing on that. So it was natural for me that when I did my very first book that I did, I wrote my own solo book. But then after that, the very first book I put together was a collaboration book. I was basically following in my mentor's footsteps because he wrote a book that I was in called Footsteps of the Fearless while I was breaking through a fear every day that year. And it was through him writing a book, that was a collaboration book. By then he had done like 60 of them already. But through being in his book, it helped me to see the power of bringing people together to share their stories. And then what we do beyond that, it's like, what do we do beyond that? Well, we invite them to come together and connect with each other through networking events. Again, community, building community around not only the book itself, but community around our entire community of authors. And so what I love about these books is that they're theme oriented. And because it's a theme, you already know that the people you're in the book with are like-minded people. So no matter what the theme is, like we using this book as an example, Bold Risks, Big Rewards. This one is every single person in this book knows that they took a bold risk. They know that they got a big reward from it. And then this makes them more likely to be able to connect with each other, to be able to share their stories. And it's really through the themes of the books that really fuels me forward. I love creating these themes.
Yes, absolutely amazing. And and you may have more to add to that, because we wanted to ask you, what is the most rewarding aspect for you of helping others publish their stories?
Well, for me, it was, when I was breaking through those fears every day is kind of the time that I started to share my story. Because again, I was breaking through that fear of judgment, and sharing my story was a judgment that I was placing on myself and thinking that others were judging me about. So it gave me that ability to start sharing my story. And then people would say things like, wow, you did that. That's awesome. And then it encouraged me to keep sharing my story more and more and more. So it's through me sharing my story that helped me to see the value of us sharing our stories. I remember when I wrote my solo book, it was called The Year of Fears. I published that book, and about 3 or 4 months later, I was attending a networking event. There were about 400 people in attendance. And I was on a break, and I was talking to some people I had met at the networking event. And from the other side of the room comes yelling this woman. She's yelling my name, Lynda Sunshine, Lynda Sunshine. And when she got to me, she said, I bought your book, The Year of Fears. I read the first 14 pages, and I already broke through 5 fears. That was my aha moment, that my story does have value. My story does have purpose. And it's time for me to really step into it and share it more and more and more. It was through me sharing that made me realize that I have the power and ability to help others to share their stories, which will create a ripple effect in their own lives and the lives in those that they touch.
Wow.
It's been an amazing, fun journey. So fun.
Yeah,
so fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, talking about big, bold risks, can you tell us about a risk that you took that didn't quite go as planned? And what did you learn from the experience?
Yeah, which one? Oh my gosh.
I know. I knew you were going to say that. So choose one.
Yeah, I'm going to choose the first one, because the first one was one of those moments that I probably shouldn't have done the way I did it. First of all, that's the lesson learned, right? And then afterwards, it's like, why did I keep doing this? Okay, so back in 2015, I'm breaking through a fear every single day for a year. And it's about April of 2015. And I have this idea. I'm going to put on a music event, I'm going to put on a food festival. I'd never did a food festival before, but I saw that they were a lot of fun, and I love having fun. And I thought, you know what? I've done all these charity events. Like, I've put together 100 charity events by then. I can easily do a food festival. So I created this event called Lemon Zest and Garlic Fest, and put the idea out there. And I started having people be interested. I had a team of volunteers that magically showed up for me. It was incredible. We had over 160 volunteers. But the day of the event, which was July 18th, 2015, I will remember this date forever. The day of the event, it starts at 11 a.m. and at 10 minutes till 11, the heavens opened up and started just downpouring rain. I live in San Diego, California. We don't get rain in July, August, so it was a rare event, and we got pummeled with 3 inches of rain in a matter of an hour and a half, which is unheard of in San Diego. It has never happened in the recorded history of our history. And so that event was a bust, financially speaking. I ended up losing $75,000 out of my pocket for that event. But what I learned so many different lessons from that event is that my fear is why I actually lost all that money, because I didn't go get sponsors. I didn't do there's so many things I didn't do, but it was really because I was fear driven. That was why I had those failures. And I realized I wasn't a failure. So at the end of the day, everything was cleaned up. And I looked at one of my friends and I said, next year, we're not going to do this. And next year, we are going to do that. And so I realized just at that moment that no matter how much money I lost, it wasn't about the money. It was about the lessons I learned. Like, what did I learn in that moment that will take me forward? The next year, we didn't do the same event, but I did the Berry Best Chocolate Fest. And at that event, I only lost $10,000. So it's like a 700% winning. And not only that, it was such a blast. We had 3,500 people in attendance at my second food festival. So I learned a lot of lessons. You got to jump out there, just do what you want to do, and then learn the lessons from it and keep moving forward.
Amen.
Well, as Nike says, just do it, right?
That's what I would say. Yep. Just Nike says, just do it. Well,
do it because you're scared.
Right. Do it. Right. You always say do it because you're scared. Do we have time for one more question?
I think we can. Yeah, we've got 2 minutes. So, Lynda.
All right, Lynda, you got to be quick. I don't know. This is the big one. All right. How do you balance your roles? Ooh, publisher, author, executive film producer, and maintain your vision of collaboration? Well,
I maintain my vision first. That's how. It's that the vision is always there. I always know that that's what I'm focusing on. I don't know about balance. I don't know what that means. I don't have balance in my life, and I'm okay with that. That's the one thing I realized, like work-life balance. Like I was like, who wants work-life balance? I want life to be like way up here. I don't work, so what I do, there's that saying, do what you love. You'll never work a day in your life. And that is exactly what I'm doing. So I'm way off kilter with balance, but it's what fuels me. And I love what I do.
Amen. Good. Wise advice and words. Yes. Find what you love.
Yeah. It's been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. It's a wild ride. Lynda, I didn't plan to ask you this question, but I'm going to ask you, how are you doing with reaching your target of 5 million people? Are you on track?
I don't know about on track, because we'll still keep doing it when I'm gone. So right now we're a little over 500 authors. We had to start with that first one, a little over 500 authors. It's been 3 years exactly. So, but we're picking up the pace, because I have a new something called our influencer program that we don't have time to go into today. But through our influencer program, we should be able to publish anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 authors a year.
Wow. Okay, I was going to ask you about that. All right, we're cheering you on. Anybody out there who wants to be in a book, you got to contact Lynda.
Oh my goodness. Anybody out there, if you're watching this show and you've never been published, if you're scared of getting published, you're afraid of the overwhelm, a collaboration book is the best, the most fun, and the easiest way to get not just published, but to become an international best-selling author, because Lynda has got the blueprint all worked out. She does everything for you. You submit your chapter and Bob's your uncle. She makes all the magic happen in the background. So please do reach out to Lynda of Action Takes Us Publishing if that's your goal. Well, we're out of time. It's been 30 minutes of lots of fun. And Lynda, we'd always love to have you back on our show. So thank you for joining us and taking the time out to share your story with our audience. And so from us, that's a wrap for today. And we'll see you next week on another episode of the Writer's Corner live show.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Writer's Corner live show. 30 minutes of insightful author conversations with some of the biggest names in the industry, including award-winning authors and international indie sensations. Join us on the next episode of the Writer's Corner live show.